Hi, welcome to the Medicare Show. I'm your Medicare advisor and host, Jeffrey Kuhn. This episode is at the very end of 2024. We've got just about one more day left in the year, and based on the number of calls, I thought I'd put together a podcast on what you should absolutely be looking for as you're going into 2025 to avoid a really upsetting discovery. I will tell you first and foremost, you should have received your insurance cards by now. Now, we've had some exceptions. There's been some insurance companies that have been really, really busy. People are still getting them as of today in the mail because they're just overwhelmed. But you should have or be receiving a new card, at least a welcome letter if you've changed plans. If you have not received a new insurance card, I absolutely would suggest you call the insurance company at the very end of the latest of the year. There's still a lot of people, I think, that are realizing that the insurance plans they have now are no longer going to be available next year, and they're terminated. They don't realize it yet, but in a couple of days as January 1st hits, insurance is gone. It's just, you're not going to have any insurance. So you want to be careful you're not in that bucket of people that are going to find out come January or shortly thereafter that your plan's been terminated. So if you've not received a new insurance card, I would proactively take the steps to ensure that you do. Second, if you're on expensive medications, those are the tier 3 medications that typically come with a deductible, higher copayment amounts. We have seen some insurance companies drop some of the most common prescriptions now that are being offered. I'll give you a couple examples. Eliquis, Ozempic, we've seen that come off. You want to make sure if you're on Repatha, Jardiance. There's been a lot of Part D changes due to the Inflation Reduction Act for 2025. If you're not working with a local professional that knows this and checks this and is advising you around it, and you've just talked to somebody on the phone that didn't ask, what prescriptions are you taking? Are they covered? You've got to make sure those prescriptions that are critical, and a lot of them for a lot of people are life-saving, please make sure they're covered in your policy for next year in 2025. Because if they've not asked you what your drugs are or your prescriptions and they've enrolled you in a plan, I would definitely double check. They're actually giving you very much a high risk situation because we've seen this. And I'll give you a couple examples with drugs. And I'll tell you, I have had some people that try to do this themselves. And I've had 2 open browsers on my computer. I'm kind of at my desk today. I'm not where I normally am doing a podcast, which is in my conference room. But you can see I've got several monitors, and a lot of times I'll load up a couple different versions. Even on Medicare.gov, I can be working in the exact same browser on Medicare, looking up drugs with the exact same drugs. And I'm telling you, I've seen it with my own eyes where I've had 2 different results. I had Medicare showing that a certain prescription was not covered by one insurance company, the other it was, side by side. It was just, I've never seen it so unreliable this year. Another example, we've have several clients that take the Omnipod, which is a Part D medication. Yes, it's an insulin delivery system, but because the insulin is in it, they count it as a Part B medication. Looking at it one week, I went back a few days later, and the Omnipods aren't even listed in Medicare as a covered Part D medication. And I know for a fact it is. And that was a huge factor in determining which insurance company is right for that client. So if you've not been asked those things, you've got to find out, are your prescriptions covered? The other thing is, are your doctors? I've had panic calls right before the end of the annual election period, right before December 7th. We had a number of people call. Somebody over the phone convinced them to go to XYZ company. And this was, they thought somebody that knew what they were doing, didn't ask again in detail about their doctors. They called me and asked me, and I asked, who their doctors were. and whether were their major network affiliations, because typically now they are tied in with a hospital system. So come to find out, and in more than one case, I said, listen, I'm going to tell you the bad news here is that half of your doctors, I mean, I've had this conversation, I can't tell you how many times, don't take the insurance that you enrolled in for 2025. That's the bad news. The good news is we still have time to change it before December 7th, the end of the annual election period. So we had a few people we had to fix that, talk to somebody over the phone. So you want to be careful these couple things. Did you get a card? Are your drugs covered? Are you in an insurance company that your doctors accept? And I always tell people, ask your doctor's office. They'll tell you who they like. There's a whole list of them. We're contracted with everybody in our area. And I will tell you, we know who the doctors prefer, who they don't prefer, who's problematic. So don't trust somebody you just talked to on the phone that's enrolled you in a plan. You've got to check yourself. So hopefully you've got those three things covered. You've got a great plan for next year. There is what's called an open enrollment period. If you find yourself in a bad situation, give us a call. We may be able to help you get your plan updated or changed over if it's not fitting in with your networks or your prescriptions. But please like and subscribe. And if there's any comments you want to make as far as subject matter, anything in particular, Medicare related, you'd like me to cover in 2025, I'm happy to do so. So thanks for joining me. Hope you found this information helpful. And again, hope you've got a great plan for 2025. Bye-bye.